Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and I'm here with Benjamin Hardy, who is the author of several books, including the New York Times bestseller Willpower Doesn't Work. And I've talked to him before about Willpower Doesn't Work, but you have a new book coming out in about a year, a little bit more than a year, and it's called, the tentative working title is,
Personality isn't permanent.
okay, so what I love about this, just think about that. We think that we're born with a certain personality, it's in our genes, the way we were raised, and that we have no control over it. And I wanted to talk to you just for a few minutes because when it comes to your health, you think you have these things that you have to deal with and you have no control over it. But why don't you expand on that? Because I think this is very powerful.
Yeah, so there's like a few key concepts that I think people need to understand. One is that personality is very much like a product of their memory. And memory is something that's supposed to be fluid and flexible and changeable. The problem, though, for most people is that every memory is tied to an emotion, and emotions can keep people stuck. Like, so let's just say, emotions are very tied to memory. And so what happens is people have, it doesn't even have to be a traumatic experience, but we all have like an emotional threshold that we're afraid to go outside of, like that's outside the comfort zone. And personality is all about doing what's predictable. And so most people's lives are very predictable. They do the same thing every single day because people don't want to deal with the emotions of uncertain outcomes. But the only way to actually learn something new, like true learning, like we live in a world, so T.S. Eliot, he said, where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? So we live in a world of information overload, but information is not learning. Like most people look at their memory like a filing cabinet that you just keep putting stuff into, but memory is actually like it's kind of like your filter of the world. And true learning is supposed to change that filter. And what that means is that if you actually learn something new, you should see and operate in the world different. You should see yourself differently, you should see others differently, and you should actually behave differently. It should be a permanent transformation.
So how do you suggest people start doing, like, it can be overwhelming to think about changing your personality, especially if you have all these things that you want to make your life better.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want your health to be better, you want your job to be better, you want your relationship to be better. Um, I mean, how would someone start? Like, would you say as simple as if you're used to getting out of bed on one side, you get out on the other side? I mean, is it that
Yeah, that's
simple?
part of it is not being predictable. Is doing something today, for example, that's different from what you did yesterday.
Right.
So
So,
like, yeah.
like today, you did push-ups and ran around my backyard.
Yeah, because she has a beautiful swimming pool and a beautiful backyard. But yeah, so like most people's today, for example, is going to be very similar to their yesterday. And there's a lot of research that talks about how essentially around the age of 30 to 35, you have pretty much created what would be like an operating system. It's your subconscious system that basically defines like 95% of your choices and your habits, your behaviors, and all those things. You've got about 5% of conscious choice. But what happens is so there's a really good book by Candace Pert. She wrote the book the body is the unconscious mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all and she wrote another book called Molecules of Emotion. But basically, what this is all about is that your body becomes accustomed to certain emotional experiences. That's why I'm talking about memory and emotion are the same thing. Your body is is your unconscious mind, and your body is a record of your past, and it's very addicted to emotional experiences. And so most people are again acting unconsciously all the time. So like when people check their phone, they're going through a subconscious loop and they're not actually controlling their behavior. They just look at it because their body is seeking emotions, because their body has become addicted to certain emotional experiences. And so what you need to do is you need to break those patterns. You have to disrupt it. Napoleon Hill actually said that like a good shock to the brain is really good for like basically what happens is your brain gets atrophied by habit. Your brain gets atrophied by doing the same thing every single day. So yeah, I think the simplest thing you could do is to begin acting differently, because what most people think is most people think that it's their personality that creates their behavior, but it's actually their behavior that creates their personality. And so if you start acting differently, you'll start to see yourself differently. In psychology, it's a concept called self-signaling. Basically, what it means is that you signal to yourself who you believe you are based on your behavior. It's the exact same way you judge other people. So if you start behaving differently, And basically, if you behave differently, it's going to freak you out emotionally because you're stepping out of those same emotional patterns that your body has become addicted to and habituated to. If you do something differently, you're going to experience a different emotional reaction and your body is going to revolt. Your body is going to say, no, we want to go back to homeostasis because your body has taken over your mind. Your body, and so you need to purposefully, embrace more difficult emotions, and you need to be willing to do stuff that has unpredictable outcomes. And that's really what courage is. That's what actually growth requires, is that you do something where you don't know what the outcome could be. You could fail. It might not work. And that freaks people out. That's why they pursue the predictable. That's why their lives are predictable, and that's why they remain stuck. And
Yeah,
it's not
you could
enough.
be
Yeah.
embarrassed. You could,
It could be awkward.
it could be
You could
awkward.
fail.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, think about how you feel when you do something totally different and it's successful. Then the feelings and the emotions are powerful in a positive way that can reinforce. So you can't expect it to be like that every single time. You've got to expect sometimes, maybe most of the time, you're going to fail when you try something new. And I think your point about it being so uncomfortable, your body's like trying to pull you back.
Yeah.
That to me is like I think the most powerful message out of this little conversation is like, this is going to be uncomfortable.
You should embrace that.
And yeah.
Well, so there's a concept in neuroscience, brain science. And so basically your brain seeks to predict the future. It's like, that's what it wants. It takes information and it really heavily wants to predict the future. And so when you do something that your brain, when you do something and you were wrong, that's called a prediction error. And really, you can't actually learn anything new until you experience a prediction error. So like when a child touches the stove and their hand gets hot, that was an error. Like they predicted that would not happen. And all of a sudden there's all this signal to the brain and stuff that was a prediction error. That was wrong. You need to readjust your filter and your paradigm about the world because you saw that wrong. And you can't actually learn without experiencing prediction errors. And so most people, they want to be able to predict the future, but a lot better thing to do is actually to experience events when you were wrong, because that's actually the only way you can learn. It has to be outside your current filter, which is extremely small. And so pursuing things where the outcome is not, you can't fully predict it, but obviously you can do a lot of things to get yourself in the right mental place. You can experience high levels of commitment and resolve, and you can visualize the future, and you can increase your faith, and you can begin to truly pursue things that are outside your comfort zone, and you can get better and better at creating the outcomes you want, even if you've got to fail forward to get there. So failure should just be viewed as feedback and prediction error and learning, rather than as some form of negative thing. And emotion, like in psychology, emotional regulation and emotional intelligence is the ability to essentially, not allow your emotions to control you, but to enjoy the full breadth of emotion, rather than avoiding certain negative emotions, rather than keeping emotions suppressed and like being a hostage to the emotions that your body is addicted to. You want to continually expand beyond them. And what's cool is that when you learn new things, you reshape your memory. When you reshape your memory, you reshape your identity, because your memory is what is your personality. If you wiped your memory completely, you wouldn't have the same personality. And so if you seek out emotionally charged experiences that allow you to grow and change and become different, first off, you experience confidence, because you can't actually have confidence if you're not growing. But then you can decide who you want to be. You can become the kind of person that does things that 99% of the population doesn't do. And then you can decide who you want to be, and you can act from that place. And you can be bold, you can be powerful, you can be healthy, you can be strong. You can do all sorts of amazing things if you're willing to embrace the emotions of change. And change can't happen in a logical manner. It always has to be emotional, because emotions are like the foundation of memory. And memory is the foundation of learning. And so, what's his name? Albert Einstein said, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. So basically, the more you learn and the more powerful you're learning, the more your memory is going to change, the more you're going to change. And Winston Churchill said, it is, to be good is to change, to be perfect is to change often. And so if you're not changing, if you're not learning, if you're not growing, then you're very stuck in a very subconscious, predictable cycle. And so you need to break that, today, literally by doing something unpredictable, something more powerful, something more resonant with the person that you want to become.
And you need to be willing to have your body freak out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to be willing to go, okay, I'm gonna ride this out, and this is gonna be uncomfortable. And I mean, to me, that's like, I think people hear this message and they like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. But you have any tips for
Yeah,
helping people get through that part of it?
totally. So you want to have amazing support systems. Like first off, you have to be completely open and honest about your feelings. There's a quote basically from Joe Polish. She says, "You're as sick as your secrets." So like the worst thing you want to do is isolate yourself, which is what most people do when they're having an emotional experience. Like let's just say they're triggered, and like you go through a subconscious self-sabotage where you may go into an addiction cycle or something. So the most important thing is that you're very open about your experiences with other people around you. Maybe have someone trusted to say, this is difficult for me. This is what I'm, one of the one of the biggest ways out of an addiction, for example, is to admit that you have a problem. Admit that, and basically what we're saying is that I'm saying that personality is an addiction. Personality is an addiction to a certain way of being, and your body is addicted to certain emotional chemicals. And so to get out of the addiction of being a certain way and just choosing to be someone else, you want to have support systems. One of the things I do is obviously I write in my journal a lot. There's so much research about journaling, about how journaling is like a self-regulating tool. You can write about just the things you're challenged with. So I would say talk to people. I would say journal regularly, meditation, prayer if you do that, fitness. I mean, eating good food. I mean, really, what you want to do is you want to just train yourself to become healthier and more emotionally stable. And I think you need to have good people around you. You need to have honest conversations, and just be okay with failure as well. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I mean, the way how is not as difficult as people think. It's like literally having good communication,
Yeah.
journaling practices, meditation practices, fitness, and just performing healthy behaviors. Like if you act right, you will feel better about yourself. And so if you even just live one congruent day where, like, let's just say it's after 5 o'clock, you've had a healthy dinner, like just don't eat any more bad food at night. Like literally just have one good day. That will add confidence. And so yeah, it's gonna be a little, if you're addicted, like some people, and like I've been, to like munching crap at night, that's gonna be kind of hard because your body is seeking it. And then you go through the subconscious cycle of just giving your body the emotions. Because when you eat the food, it's not even really about the food, it's about the emotions and the chemicals that food produces in your brain and your body. So if you just deal with it, and how do you deal with it? You can create an environment that facilitates it. You like literally remove the option. You
Get out and go for a walk.
yeah, go just do stuff.
Go do something instead of being because that I think is so typical. Like that to me, I'm glad you brought that up because to me that's if you want to start somewhere with your health and you keep doing the same things that keep you stuck in the same rhythms.
You gotta disrupt the pattern.
Disrupt the pattern.
Stop doing something that's so predictable. I mean, I think that's kind of the core message of this, is that personality is predictable, and your personality and your body are very tied together because your body is an emotional system and your emotions are tied to your memories. And I mean, you have to shock that system by doing what's non-predictable and then by going to a different emotional place. And your body's not going to like it because it's accustomed to emotional experiences, which are chemical and physical. And so you have to experience different emotions, which is difficult, but that's how you change, And there's kind of really two approaches. You have to act above your current environment. You have to act above your current reality, or you can create an environment that allows you to act above it. And so you can surround yourself with more positive people. If you're surrounded by people who are healthy, who are, positive, it's a lot easier to be that way. So
yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, I always love when we get together because seriously, when we have a minute to just chat with each other and brainstorm with each other, and Ben lives in a different state, so I drug him into this video because I wanted him to share his brilliantness, and I know that a lot of you that I talk to and the messages that I share, there seems to be a bit of frustration at times because we don't feel like things are changing. But in order to change, you have to truly bust out of your comfort zone. And it has to be, I love everything that you just said about that, about how to actually do that. And there's a science behind it,
Huge. Yeah, and I would
So,
say, what basically is the more emotional an experience, the more memorable it will be. And so, you get to decide, most people, if they're gonna like step out of their comfort zone, they're gonna step very small out because it's gonna be not as intense of an emotional experience. Therefore, it won't transform the memory. Therefore, it won't transform the identity. So the more bold you're willing to be, the more emotional you're willing to create an experience, the more that experience is going to be embedded within your identity and your reality. And so, you get to decide to what extent you want to make a transition. There's actually a really cool concept in psychology called transitional character. And basically what that means is that we're all born into an environment, and a lot of us are born into unhealthy environments. And a transitional character is someone that basically transcends their environment and creates a totally new reality for the next generation. They like, let's just say you come from poverty and you transition out of that and you become wealthy and you create a totally new setup for the next generation for your kids. You could do that in health. You can do that in all sorts of ways. Well, you get to decide the amount of transition, like you get to decide how big of a transitional character you are, and that's just all based on growth. There's no limit to the amount of growth you can have. There's no limit to the amount of intelligence you can have. There's no limit. There's no cap, because
yeah, and there's no
we can
age
change.
cap either.
No,
It doesn't matter what
you
your
can be a
age is.
transitional character late in life. A lot of the most amazing people made their most amazing changes and transformations way late in
Yeah.
life. And so you just get to decide to what extent you change your own life, which then can change the lives of all those around you. And so it's really your choice. But the bigger the change, the more the emotional transformation has to be. Um, and there's a really good book by Dr. David Hawkins called Letting Go. And he says that really the first step to going up to higher emotional frequencies or higher emotional states is courage. Courage is always required to go above your current emotional plane. And so it's going to require facing, whether it be fear, embarrassment, awkwardness. You've got to be willing to be courageous. And courage is a lot better and easier when you have a firm why and a
Yeah.
firm commitment and a reason to do it. And one last thought is just that there's two types of motivation. There's a push motivation, which is really hard, where you have to like literally force yourself to do it. That requires willpower and it's exhausting and it's not sustainable. Or there's pull motivation, which means that you're literally pulled forward and it's hard to stop yourself from doing it because you're so committed to the change. Like you can't not do it. And so you want to do something that really pulls you forward, something, and you can train yourself to have that deep level of desire and conviction, but you can only train yourself to do that through behavior. So like you have to actually behave in certain ways, and the more you behave in a certain way, the more conviction you'll get towards something. So like for example, if you want to be more healthy, you need to study health. You need to actually like study it. You need to actually eat right. Like the more you do it, the more you will become it. You can't there's a quote from a Harvard psychologist. He says it's a lot easier to act your way into feeling than to feel your way into acting. So you can't wait till you feel ready. You have to actually behave in a certain way, and the more you behave in that way, you'll change your brain and you'll believe it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so if you guys are like me and you could listen to Van talk all day, he writes some amazing articles and he's written some great books and he's got another book on the way. How can people find you just to keep getting the Benjamin Hardy
Sure.
love? Because honestly, I mean, we've been going for 19 minutes and
Yeah,
I'm
I gotta
sure,
go.
and he's got to go, and I'm sure you could listen to him for an hour. So where do
Yeah,
people find you? Because his information that you share it can change your life in an amazing way.
totally. Thank you. I
Sure.
would just say, benjaminhardy.com. That site is under construction right now, but you can get access to my top articles. I've been really lucky. I've been the number one writer on medium.com for like almost 3 years now. And if you read an article, any of my articles on Medium, at the bottom of my articles, you can sign up for my newsletter and get a free checklist, which will teach you a morning routine that will allow you to put yourself into a peak state and operate from just a higher level of being every single day so that you can live an unpredictable. By living unpredictable, what I mean is that you're not living a predictable life in the past, but you can actually create a life that you want in the future. So yeah, just go to medium.com, Benjamin Hardy, and
I'll put the links underneath the video.
sure.
Thanks, Ben. He's, yeah. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.